Welcome to Escapees RV Club webinars. We are here about once a month to go over topics that are of interest to RVers on the road and looking to get on the road. And the one today really fits the bill for both, because something that a lot of us want to do is make money on the road somehow, even if it's just a little side hustle. So today we're talking about remote work, and this is leading into our Rethinking Remote Work virtual conference coming up March 4th through 8th. That's next week. And we're actually having one of the speakers join us tonight to talk about the future of remote work. So I'm going to introduce Camille Patel. Hello, Camille.
Hello.
Nice to see you. And we are, as I said, you're going to be a speaker on the Rethinking Remote Work virtual conference next week. I actually believe you are the first speaker on the conference next week.
Yikes.
You're welcome. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Remote work journey, right? Because you are a remote work expert here. You have founded Remote Work School. You are also a full-time RVer. You blog at More Than a Wheelin'.
Yeah.
And you talk about the remote work journey there too. So
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about what you're talking about. And I know you're doing a workshop too, which is pretty awesome.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, I have to tell you, I don't know if the view that I'm looking at is the view everyone sees, but I have to note that my hair does not even fit in the window. Like, it looks like it's just hair for days. So anyway, I just had to point that out.
You have very awesome full hair. It should really have its own Instagram account or something, or Twitter account.
That's my next way to earn remote income, Krenza. Thank you for that idea. Hashtag big hair, don't care. Yeah, so I am super excited about this conference. When I was asked to join, I took a look at, well, I think I was one of the early speakers, so I'm not sure that I immediately went to look to see who else was speaking, but I was obviously curious. I was like, well, who else is going to be there? What's going to happen? And as I saw speakers getting added, I just got more and more excited. I was like, wow, these are not only amazing business and remote work experts, because I know a lot of them, but they're talking about really meaty, really important topics. And so when I started to see it all come together, I was like, well, how can I add the most value? Because there's so much here. And so what I thought about was, I'm a big picture thinker, and I like to pull lots of different things together in a way that people can really understand and make it very step by step. So what I'm talking about from my main talk, which I guess you say is the first one after you're welcome, is it's all about the remote work journey for remote workers and entrepreneurs, because I do believe that this is a literal as well as a figurative journey that people go on, because there's so much in terms of the transition process, not only to the RV lifestyle, but just into how you earn money. It can be a big transition for people. It's a transformative process. It can really change you, not only your income level and how you travel and how you live your life, but on the inside. And so I weave all of that together, and I really talk about what that journey looks like for a lot of people, and I do it in a 5-step process. So I tried to take a whole bunch of stuff and get it down into 5 main points. Hey, I see people joining. Hello, everyone.
Yes. Well, that makes it a lot easier, because it can be very overwhelming to think about. And so 5 steps, that's doable, right?
Yeah.
That's totally doable.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. And if you hadn't seen, sorry, I can't talk tonight, rethinkingremotework.com, you can go over there. You can learn more about the conference. There is a whole slew of speakers on this conference. And we're talking with people like Camille, who is in the community and an industry expert, and lots of people who doing this. They're out there working. I'm sitting inside a cabin right now, but most of the time I'm working from my RV. There are lots of people out here doing it, and lots of options. So come check it out. There's options for everyone for tickets, from free, where you can just join us next week and watch everything within 24 hours, to having a VIP, which is where you get to have the workshops with Camille and others, which are very valuable. You're like hands-on doing it. You're going to come out with something.
Yeah, I should mention the workshop really quickly. By the way, I see that my buddy William Trinkle joined. I see Will gave me a little hashtag big hair don't care. I see people here I don't believe I've met before. Hello, Susan. Hello, Danny. So good to see everyone. So the workshop, I do want to touch a minute on that. And I know we'll dig into that later probably, but really quickly, one of the things about the workshops that I think are so cool, and again, I looked through all of them, is just how much people go more in depth on specific subjects. So in my case, while I set the stage for the remote work journey, one of the things I touch on in the main talk is using transferable skills. But in the workshop, I do exercises to help you uncover those transferable skills in a really deep way where you can use them in all kinds of new ways that you never thought possible. So I built it brand new just for this conference. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, I feel very special. Thank you from Escapees for doing that, because I know you're great at that stuff. So it's exciting that this is a new thing. So that's, yeah, wonderful. So you guys check it out, rethinkingremotework.com. And if you have any questions about it, pop them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end, whatever we can. Or there might be someone in the chat to answer them for you. And then again, too, if you do have questions at any time during this talk, when we're talking about the future of remote work, pop them in the chat and we will see them and we will get to them either during our conversation or towards the end and we'll have lots more questions. So just write them in there and we will see them. So thanks. So as we said, we are talking about the future of remote work. And I know this is something that you have looked at a lot because you're really looking at remote work all the time. And let's just say 2020 was a big year for remote work and changes.
Yeah.
So how did 2020 change remote work? What does it look like? Maybe what did it look like a little bit beforehand, and what has changed?
Yeah, so, like you mentioned, I've been involved in remote work pretty heavily since about 2016, because that's when I walked away from my corporate job. My husband, Bryce, and I walked away from really traditional type of employment in an office, although I had been working remotely on and off. When we decided to do the whole RV lifestyle thing, I don't think remote work was really, just wasn't a thing. I mean, it wasn't mainstream, let me put it that way. People were doing it for sure, but no one was really talking about it. And so for me, I was like, well, this is the best thing on earth. Like, let's go all in on this. And so then like you mentioned before, I started the More Than a Wheel and blog that turned into a remote work school, started talking about remote work. So in my mind, before 2020, I thought there was going to be a long, say about 5-year transition where more companies were going to be more open to remote work. There was a lot of resistance around it, fear that managers had, a lot of stuff around it'll never work, people won't be productive. I had tried to go remote with my company before and they were like, no, Camille, that'll never work here. So there was all this resistance around it, and there was a lot of companies who just felt like they just didn't have to do it, and so they just were a bit lazy about even trying, right? Except for the really innovative ones. And so 2020 comes along, and it literally pushed companies into the remote world, at least the ones who could do it. It also reshaped small business owners. I saw small business owners get hit particularly hard, more than say your big companies, because they can kind of weather that sort of these shifts. But the small business owners, what I saw were two trends. Either small businesses closing because they really couldn't understand how to adapt, or I saw small businesses thrive because they really understood how to create more remote opportunities, either for their employers, their income streams, and those businesses will be thriving well into the future. And in terms of companies, bigger companies, you now see some big companies like Google, Twitter, a bunch of other ones I'm not going to name, that not only have said, we're just going to go remote for the next year or two, some have said, we're just going to go remote forever. So there's a whole lot of shifts that this creates. I'm not going to go into all of that right now because I'll just talk for an hour. But that's where I see
the point.
I know, but I should take a breath. I should breathe. I should slow down, I think. But, you know, I'm excited about it. I know it's been very impactful negatively for some people, a lot. I get it. And for other people, it's opening up just a whole new world of opportunities that they never thought possible. So to me, to make this long answer a little shorter, it's accelerated everything I thought would happen. I thought it would happen in 5 years. It happened in 1. So, like, hang on, everybody. Yeah.
Okay. That's just the roller coaster. That's just the speed, like, shot just right there. I mean, you can't go from 5-year plan that you're thinking about to 1 year. It's just, I saw a statistic that the amount of remote workers skyrocketed from 3.4% last February to 42% in April. I mean, and I know some of that was temporary, but that's just amazing.
Yeah, and you think about the impact to that to businesses is like whiplash. To have, you know, like I mentioned, the company that I was working for that said no to me when they were like, no, Camille, we don't do remote here. Literally within 1 week, they had thousands of employees working from home, and those employees have not gone back into the office since. So yeah, that's massive. That's a massive shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that kind of hit me was, it was at REI. They built this campus, this huge new campus, and they haven't even yet, and they're going to sell it. Like, REI for sure, but an outdoor company, and they've decided that they're just going to sell it because there's going to be they're going to do more remote. I mean, that's a total shift. It's to build like I'm sure millions of dollar campus.
Oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine.
And not you then go, okay, everybody's going to be remote, or going to be remote. That's a major shift, but it does open up a lot more opportunity for RVers.
Yes, huge.
Work remotely, and it looks like that REI, whoever it was, more companies maybe are more open to it now, and keeping it past the pandemic.
Yeah, not only open to it, I think some companies have figured out that it's non-negotiable. It's you know, before, what I used to teach before was there were ways you could negotiate a remote job with employers by talking about the cost to the employer. There's a whole bunch of statistics around when you have workers be remote, you actually save money on things like, you know, hardware, software. Obviously, you just mentioned real estate, but you also, there's statistics around increased productivity. Believe it or not, people don't just sit home and surf the web. You know, they're actually working more hours now. There's statistics on that. But I actually forgot where I was going with this, Prenza. What my point was.
Well, more companies are not even just open to it. They're actually.
Yeah, so that was the old school way of negotiating. The new school way of negotiating is the fact that now you don't have to, in a lot of ways, because they understand the benefits to them now so much more that it's an easier conversation, and it's not that much of a big deal anymore. You used to have to convince them of all sorts of things, especially if you were an RVer. And this is what I think is so exciting for RVers. Now you don't get so many questions like, I used to get weird questions like, well, what do you do for internet? And I'm like, what do you do for internet? Don't you have a cell phone? Like, you know, it's so, you don't have those awkward conversations anymore. It's like, it's been fully normalized. And so the conversations now are more about, what are your hours going to be? What are the deliverables going to be about? When do I check in online? I mean, it's just a totally different conversation. And I think that makes it so much better for the RV community, where that used to be a barrier before. It's not as much of a barrier now.
Yes, I totally agree. Because I was as you were talking, it made me think about friends that have gone and their stories. When we left, we decided to leave our jobs. We couldn't work remotely at that point with our jobs, but we transitioned it into working for those types of companies, but on like as business owners.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
That's how we did it. But now, and I know other friends have, yes, they've had to work on their bosses and tell them like, this is a thing. I can do this. I can like for months or maybe a year, or somebody, they were able to work from home. So they just let them think they were working from home and then told them they were working from an RV after they proved that it was no different.
Yes.
And now it's to be able just to say, I want to work remotely, or like they're used to it. That is a game changer.
It is.
It's not having to convince somebody. They actually have that experience with a remote worker now.
Yeah. And now, and two, they also know that, you know, this period of time in the last year, not only did it impact, you know, in some way, obviously it impacted the employment market. The unemployment was incredibly high, and I get that. But a lot of people left the market and started their own business or started to freelance or figured out that they could go it alone. And so now what's happening, or what will happen, is when the shift happens, probably I think more around the spring, when we start to the economy starts to pick back up, job market picks back up, employers are going to have a hard time recruiting people, especially if they don't offer full remote, because people now understand how to do it. And so that's just another competitive thing that employers are going to have to be thinking about. And so they're already thinking about it. I mean, can I show a slide, or is that going to be too complicated?
When I pop it on full screen, I'll show it over there.
Okay. I'll have to see it. Okay, everyone, sit tight. We're doing this on the fly. That's always risky. You never know. Bear with us. But I thought this could be interesting to people. Okay, so you can see my slide here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's perfect.
So here's what we're looking at in terms of the future of remote work, just statistically speaking, since we're talking stats and stuff like that. So the growth rate of full-time remote work over the next 5 years is expected to double. And by the way, this was last year's stat. I think this is before they even knew just how impactful the pandemic was going to be. So I have a feeling that this is going to be more like triple. And even at a 50% remote workforce, so even if employers had half of their workforce remote, they would save $11,000 a year per employee. So that's what's so enticing now to these employers, that before they really couldn't see, and they weren't, like, their hand wasn't forced to make this happen, if that makes sense. And then the good news is about 56% of managers feel that remote work has gone better than expected. And that surprised them, right? Because before, when there was all that resistance, they were feeling like it'll never work, it's going to be hard. But really, it's gone better than they thought. And then 62% of hiring managers say that their workforce will be more remote going forward. So this is what we're in for. This is what is on the horizon. This and a whole bunch of other amazing things around remote work.
That's amazing. It really, there's so much that's been bad, but then there's like this like weird little glimmer of, oh, well, this is a great thing for us and for the future of remote work and people to get used to.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that managers have felt that it's gone better. And it's as a remote worker, I'm not surprised.
Right.
Yeah, we know, but we know like a lot of people don't get it. They don't understand. And like you were saying before, the productivity. They don't think that, or they think maybe that people are just goofing off all day, which really is going back into an office after not being in one. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of sitting around time, or, you know, water cooler stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of distraction. I will say, you know, that's a blessing and a curse, right? Like, I think for some people, the structure of an office environment and having your employees next to you, and like if you get stuck on a tech issue, you can pop over to Joe's desk. Poor Joe. You're like, hey, Joe, I can't log in. Can you come help me? And like Joe's productivity comes down to go help you. But it's nice to have that. Well, when you work remotely, you don't have that as much. And so in some ways, your productivity goes up. But in other ways, you know, there are some challenges to that. And you do have to be a little bit more nimble, and you have to be prepared to work through some things that, you know, maybe you didn't have to before. But you know what? RVers are incredibly resilient. I talk about that in my main talk is I talk about what's so cool about when you think about what it takes to work remotely and what it takes to be an RVer. Really similar transferable skills, lots of resiliency, lots of ability to troubleshoot, lots of flexibility to go with the flow, right? These are all the same transferable skills you need in either lifestyle. So it's like a perfect little blend.
Right. That's, yeah. That sounds great to me. It does. It really does. They line up perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like we were talking about productivity, and now it's more, maybe the conversation is your productivity and your, as you said, deliverables over your hours worked.
Yeah.
Right? It's because I know some people who they do log in to a space and need to be online from 9 to 5. But then others who really, it's maybe they're meeting with people at different times, but they kind of choose the hours that they're working or when they work best.
Yes. Yeah. And that's not going to be the case for everyone. You know, there are some places where the only real difference between your traditional job and the remote one is that you're remote, but maybe your hours are still 8 to 5. Maybe you still have, you know, your break at 10 and 3 and lunch at 12. And for some people, that's fine. They love the structure. But I like being able to work whenever I want because it just suits my lifestyle better. So, by the way, I'm seeing like tons of questions in the chat. Do you want us to respond to those?
As they come up, as they fill in with the conversation, I think so. There's been a lot of talk about expenses. So I'm going to keep an eye on it, but we'll.
Yeah. Oh, I see other people. I see Kelly Sexton's here. Hey, Kelly. I see Russ. I know some of these people, not everyone. Welcome, Tara. Is it Tara? I know Michelle. I think I know Brenda. Let's look at Brenda's question real quick, just because I want to. Benefits such as health insurance is interesting, right? I work remotely as well as my coworkers. We are across several states. We can purchase health insurance. I haven't looked into it yet, but then insurance coverage will need to go from state to state. So I know that I believe David Goldstein will be talking about the different ways to look at insurance. Is that right at the conference? Okay.
He was talking about that during the conference. I believe so.
I think he is.
And he's done a webinar and we have information. So join next week. He is talking about that because there are options. So, you know, maybe your employer offers a plan, but he does show the options if you're a working age RVer and you're not getting Medicare yet. Talks about that, what kind of things you can do that do travel across state lines, because as RVers, yes, we do want it to work everywhere.
Yes.
At least.
Yes. And I see Susan's question about what about compensation for the additional costs for working at home? Utilities come to mind since mine went up exponentially at a home base before the business folded last month. Yeah, I mean, that is unfortunate, Susan, and I don't know your specific situation. I don't know if this was your business or you were working for a company and they weren't compensating you for that. I think every business, every company is different. They're going to look at that different. I do know that one of the great things about this conference is that you have so many experts who have experience with everything that everyone's already asking. And so you're going to hear about everything from managing expenses to offsetting costs to insurance to taxes to, I mean, it's all here. So if we can't answer it all tonight, because we only have 1 hour, you got to come next week because we're going to dive deep into all of this.
And there are panels, so there's to ask questions on some of this too.
Cool, good.
Yes, and I would think that different employers offer different kind of compensation for some of that. And as someone pointed out, I guess she said some of the transportation costs do offset it. You aren't commuting anymore, so there's a lot of trade-offs.
Yes,
like sometimes things are very similar to working in an office, but at the same time, sometimes people might maybe they're not compensated for their computer or something, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they even want to take a different job that doesn't pay as much, but they get to work remotely.
Exactly.
Of course, it's changing right now, so maybe more jobs will be open than
right.
But
Yeah,
it's just,
sure.
you know, it's more about what you get out of it
Mm-hmm.
and your lifestyle.
Yes, always a trade-off. Definitely always looking at different trade-offs and what you prioritize. I touch on that a little bit in the main talk, where I talk a bit about like what do you is most important to you? Is it going to be your income? Is it going to be your lifestyle? Is it going to be the type of work that you do? Do you want the stability of being employed? Do you want to take on a little bit of risk tolerance with a business? And so you just have to kind of look at it all holistically. And I say, you know, people who are willing to change their lifestyle and get in an RV, whether it's part-time, full-time, whatever it is for you, these are people who are already a little bit willing to take some risks and are already a little bit willing to think about their lifestyle in a new way. And so I do want to encourage people, like, don't take your old way of living your life and make that the future, because now you have an opportunity to do something you've always wanted to do and be totally different. And so be open-minded to what's possible, is what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just because what you've done you still have skills like what your workshop is. You have transferable skills, and you can rethink yourself, rethink what you're doing with your remote work.
There you go. There you go.
So, as we're talking about these types of jobs and stuff and things coming up more, what is being done online now?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I have to can we take a little commercial break, because I've got this thing catching my eye. I don't know if Bill is still here, William Trinkle, but I just have to show you. I told him that for this talk, I was going to put up all his beautiful photography, but I didn't. I didn't get to it, but I have it. I have it here. And so I'm not selling these. I just want to show them because they're so beautiful. And this is Cedar Key. For those of you who have not been to Cedar Key in Florida, it's amazing. This is Bryce Canyon in Utah, which is amazing. If we have time at the end of the talk, I might sing a little song about Cedar Key. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay, back to your question. Thank you for the commercial break.
Into it, we did have Bill do a webinar, I think a couple of years ago, on selling photography.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, there you go. That's his photography. It's beautiful. Plus, we needed some inspiration with some beautiful canyon photos. So what types of jobs are people doing? I will say that one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they think about going remote is thinking that the only types of jobs that are out there are like computer jobs, right? And of course you can do computer jobs. You can code, you can, you can build websites, you can do blogging, but that's obvious. This is just obvious things you can do online. And then other, obvious things you can do online are, I guess not, it's obvious to me, but probably not to everyone. You can do coaching online. You can do your knowledge online in the form of courses or, writing ebooks and things like that, just taking your knowledge and sharing it. But there are things people can do remotely, and I've seen just about everything that people don't think can be done. And I have seen it. I have helped people do it, and I think it's amazing. So let me tell you some of the hidden jobs. So people can do creative jobs online. So what do I mean by that? Let me tell you a story about my dad. My dad, Arnie, 77 years old. He's been teaching kids how to play flute for years. Drives to their house, takes 40 minutes to get there, 2 hours to do the lesson, 40 minutes to get home. That is a giant chunk of time in his day. The pandemic hits, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, Dad, you're going to teach flute online. And he's like, you're crazy. And so that's what he did. He learned how to adapt his skills and teach the kids how to play flute using FaceTime. So flute lessons online, believe it or not, piano online, any music instruction online, art online. I've seen people teaching art classes online. I had a student do dog massage. She used to do it in person. Then she learned how to teach the dog owner how to do their own dog massage online. You can even do medical stuff online, as you know, because everybody's doing telehealth now, right? Where before people were like, I have to go see my doctor. And it's like, okay, well, you can do it online, have a consulting call. Legal services online, tax services online. I mean, literally, you can take just about anything, almost. I mean, there are some things, like I really need a massage, and I just can't seem to figure out how to get one online. But I can do some yoga classes online. So the thing is, it may not be an exact exchange in some cases, but if you get a little creative, there's a lot of things that can transfer into the remote space that maybe people don't think are so obvious. And so my whole thing is just challenge yourself to think a little bit more about how can you adapt something that exists in 3D and how can you make it in 2D or go remote with it. So there's my pitch for making anything remote.
I think it played into Deborah's question she was asking too, I think right as we were started talking about it, wondering about what online jobs are available. And they've been full-time since October 2018. And she's worked at campground hosts and Workers for Now. Was a legal secretary. She was wondering about typing jobs out there that are not falsely advertised. But there are legal services that can be done online.
I mean, with Deborah, I think that one of the things that could fit for you would be transcription if you're talking about like just straight typing jobs. But I feel like your skills are more elevated than that. And so if you were a legal secretary, you've got the legal side plus you have the transcription side, so you could probably make a little bit more money than say your average remote transcriptionist. But yeah, totally done online, tons of it. In fact, there's a company called rev.com that might be worth looking into, Deborah. And I'm reading Kelly Sexton's.
I was going to say, yeah.
She gets paid to fly kites and deliver margaritas.
I know, right? I was like, I've got to learn more about this getting paid to fly kites. What heard of that? I know there's like lots of little gig jobs that do kind of weird things people ask for, but I've never heard about flying kites. I could see delivering margaritas. I know there's a definite demand for that. Well, I mean, there's a demand for margaritas. Come on. But
who's true?
Somebody else to fly their kite. And, no, usually you're actually in flying it. So, yeah, I'm curious about that.
I'm into it.
You did say that. You and Cherie, who is organizing the Rethinking Remote Work conference, have changed her life.
Aww. So. Kelly is one of those people that is, was just so eager to live the lifestyle of RVing. I got to meet her before she even bought her RV. Now she's on her second RV. Meet her when she was, doing her regular job. And then she came to the table with like, I know I can do this. I want to do this. What are my options? And like, once you just put options in front of her, I think she's worked like, I don't even know now, Kelly, like 10 different remote jobs. I don't even know. It's like, I can't keep count with her. So it's super inspiring.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So as we were talking about these types of jobs these people are doing, they're popping on here.
Yeah.
What can you do to prepare for remote work?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you, the legal example that I was thinking of, the reason I thought of it is because did everyone here see the I am not a cat video?
Yeah.
That was circulating like 2 weeks ago, where the guy showed up to the legal thing and his cat filter was on and he was like, hey judge, I'm not a cat. I mean, dying. I mean, so that was an example of a job. I swear I'm here, I'm not a cat. Anyway, just had to say that. So how to prepare for this? I mean, first of all, the fact that people are coming to the conference, I think that's a really great step. The Rethinking Remote Work Conference is a really great place to start if that's where you're at. If you're just starting your journey and you're like, I don't know, I need ideas, I need to hear from experts, then the conference is a perfect place to start. Even if you're like in between, I talk about in-betweeners a lot. Sometimes I call them entre-betweeners because they're like, I'm not quite working for an office, I'm sort of working for myself, I think I want to freelance, and they're sort of like looking for the next thing. Then this is also the right conference because you've got people at all sides of the spectrum. So that's a great way to prepare. And then inside of the conference, there's going to be very specific videos that will give you more like a pathway to help you figure out, based on where you are and what you want, what your next step is. So I think the conference, without sending people to a million other places to go, like getting ready, I think just stick with it next week. You're going to come out of it with tons of ideas and a whole lot of roadmaps from different experts, and you just pick a roadmap that makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, of course I'm going to agree with the conference. But I do think, like, especially if you go for those workshops, because you're going to learn a lot during the seminars. But if you have that kind of mindset, if you're not sure how you can translate what you do into working online, or you're not sure how to actually take that, join all the seminars, watch all of them, go to the workshops, because it's going to help you think about that and break out of that mindset. Because it's there, we see ourselves as one thing, especially if we've been doing it for a long time. I'm in this mold and that, but there's so much out there.
Yeah.
So much to do. And you're going to get these kind of roadmaps to help you think about that. Yeah. And that's one thing, is start thinking about having an open mindset. Go there, learn things.
I will say the one thing that I think is pretty universal for people when they go on this journey, especially in the beginning, especially if they're coming out of more traditional lifestyle workforce, that when they step in and they get exposed, one of the biggest feelings that happens is a bit of overwhelm, right? They're like, oh, there's so much. What do I do? How do I do it? Da, da, da. And I think the mistake that people can make is putting too much pressure on themselves that they're supposed to know right away what the path is. And so the other thing I think people should consider is, when and you all know this, you've made a million different life changes in life. Every time you choose something new in life, there's always a period of unknowing and like not being certain and being a little bit scared and going through that like fear cycle. And you just have to allow that and know that that's part of the journey. That's why I talk about a journey. And you have to just accept it and not put so much pressure on yourself that like you've got to do it right and you've got to do it by X date. And if you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. So I just want people to know you're going to get a lot of stuff and you might have those feelings come up, but those are good feelings. It just means you're heading in a new direction, and for a little bit, you're going to not know the right answer, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yes. Everything's every kind of change, good change, whatever, has a little bit of that hardness. I mean, that's a lot of people are going to find that with RVing too. They don't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to run into challenges at times.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You can do one, you can do the other.
That's right. That's right. Got it. I love it. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, I'm so excited. I'm getting ready. So that's perfect. That's a great attitude to have.
So when we're looking at the future of remote work, I mean, we've seen huge change over the past year and accelerated growth of remote work. What do you think how's it going to look going forward?
Sure. Yeah. And I see Danny's comment about, but our livelihood is at stake. And I'd love to dig into that. I will. Let me come back to that, Danny, because I totally get where you're coming from. Like, if you need to make money now, I totally get it. So let's not forget to answer that. But the future of remote work, I believe so the pendulum swung in 2020, right? We immediately were shoved into this remote world. I had to learn Zoom and connections and links and how do I show up on video and is my hair gonna like frizz out today, and I thought it was gonna be straight, all things. And so here's what I believe will happen. I think there will be not a shift back. It's not gonna pendulum swing back. There's no way. We're here now. The future is here. We all know this is gonna stick with us, but I don't think it's going to be as extreme as everybody's going to work remote all the time in every situation. That's just not sustainable. We know it's not sustainable from the perspective of cost. There's not only a financial cost to people like Danny talking about losing your livelihood. There's an emotional toll to working 100% remotely when it's not a choice. And so I believe what's going to happen is there will be a bit of a pendulum swing and an equilibrium is going to happen. So we're going to end up with a lot of hybrid models. So that's going to look like employers that offer some remote work when it's available or when it makes sense, when the employee wants it. So we're going to end up with these half hybrid models. There's going to be people that want to go in the office. There will be people that want to be 100% remote. There's going to be employers that never want people in an office because rent is too high. I think Silicon Valley will take a massive hit. It already is. Way too expensive to have a business there, and nobody wants to live there anyway because of costs. And so, you know, those companies will probably be fully remote, but I think we'll end up with all the hybrid models in between. You know what this makes me think of? Do you remember the Dr. Seuss book, The Sneetches on the Beaches? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the star-bellied Sneetches who lived on the beaches, I don't know where this is coming from right now. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. So the star-bellied Sneetches lived on the beaches. Some had a star and some did not, and that separated everyone. Mm-hmm. And then there was a machine that would put stars on some of the Sneetches, all that. Everybody ended up with like a star here, 2 stars there, 3 stars on their butt, whatever. So that nobody really knew what the heck was the right Sneetch or not. And so I believe that that's where we're headed, where everything will be very customized. There will be options. There will be different models for different people, for different companies. That's how I think things are going to turn out in the net. I would say, you know, it's going to take us time, but like a year-ish. Tara knows star-bellied Sneetches.
Yeah, as we get back into the swing of things and our new normal, the new normal for a lot of work will probably change.
Yes.
And you mentioned the hybrid model. You know, there's some people who will work on or offsite, work remotely. Mm-hmm. Some will work in. I've seen things like work part-time remotely and then part-time going in.
Yeah.
What do you think about that for RVers? Can that work for them?
I think
come in.
Here's what I've learned about RVers. I think RVers are just as diverse as any population. So sure, we all have RVing in common, and we all want to travel and all that. We want to go to convergences and the Big Bash and all of that. But how we live our life is so individual. And so I think anything can work for RVers. I know RVers who they are remote, but they travel to the location they want to work in, right? Maybe they work fairs and festivals and they want to show up on, well, maybe not 2020, but like soon. You know, maybe they are a regional manager and they have to travel to the region to do their job. Maybe some I know RV mechanics that want to work on RVs, but they also might want to hop on a Zoom call and help someone troubleshoot their RV. So, and to me, that's great because then now you get into like multiple income streams, right? Which I know we're going to talk about at the conference, because working on our RVs, you can charge a rate for that, but you can also charge a rate to hop on calls and consult someone who needs to work on their RV. So you can take one skill set and divide up all these multiple income streams off of it. So yeah, a hybrid model 100% can work for RVers.
Yeah, I think so. I think the harder, especially depending on where you want to travel and how much, because it might be you want to do more regional travel, so it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I was thinking too of our experience and a friend's who we worked remotely or we were consulting, but we still would fly in maybe once a month sometimes for some certain meetings where people would fly in from other places too. I'm not even sure. I'm curious if that would even still go on, because I know a lot more people would probably be doing remote meetings for this.
Yes.
But
yeah,
it's my friend who did that too. You know, every couple of months he had to go into the office, but it was doable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I do think there will be a little bit of a backlash for a while. Things normalize. I think people are real tired of getting on video calls for a while. It's a bit exhausting. It takes a toll on us mentally and emotionally in some cases. So there might be a little bit of a backlash in the beginning, but that's why I think we'll normalize after that. And there'll be a balance. I think there'll be a balance.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if we get back to Danny's question about livelihood being at stake.
Yeah. So I want to speak to that. And Danny, I don't know your situation, but I can imagine it. And I would think that other people would relate. So, Look, there are different levels of the journey. So when people take this journey, getting in an RV, traveling around, also learning how to work remote, there are different choices you can make about that. If the first choice is, I need a job right away, I don't have the ability to explore or, figure it out, or, go through the journey of, what do I want to do with my life? All that, I completely get it. Then the first thing you've got to do is you've got to secure income that makes sense for you. But that's also going to include offsetting costs, which we're going to talk about at the conference, because people tend to think, when they're unfamiliar with the RV lifestyle, that the income I made over here has to match the income I make in RV lifestyle. But you can save a ton of money in this lifestyle. So there are things you can do to offset costs. However, if you need income right away and you need stable income, then your first option is going to be a job. It's just going to be get a job with an employer that pays you the money you need and keeps the money coming in and keeps you stable. At the same time, if you do see a longer term vision of maybe doing your own thing, freelancing, starting your own business, then you can do that on the side in very slow, methodical steps that make sense to try to explore that while you have your stability. So I'm very aware and sensitive that not everyone has the luxury to take, 3 to 6 months to go find themselves. I get it. So we have to be practical while also being dreamers.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And look, Danny's launching a VA business. So good for you. I mean, that's fair. Was it Danny who asked that question, or was it Tara?
Yes, it was.
Danny. Yeah, perfect, Danny. I love it. And by the way, we've got Brianna Royal, who's going to be talking about being a VA. So it's just perfect.
Right. Definitely attend that one.
Yeah.
It's right up your alley here. So a couple questions that might be a little detailed here, but Terry is saying, full-time RVer, been working remotely for a year, although my company has a somewhat geographically limited to Texas. How do I approach them about being truly remote without raising flags to be let go?
Yeah, so I believe, I don't know if it's Denny and Veronica or if it's somebody else, but I know someone at the conference is going to talk about how they negotiated a job with their current employer. And I know Denny and Veronica's story. It's really good because she approached her employer. Her employer did not want her to go remote in the beginning. And so she had to work on them a little bit. And she had to make it a value proposition. Like, she basically had to do all the things we're talking about today, like talk to them about how it can save them money, talk to them about how it increases productivity. And what you do is you step into it where you say, how about if we test it maybe, twice a month, and then maybe we do twice a week. And then you slowly show to them how reliable and dependable you are. And that way they get more comfortable with it. I know Veronica's going to talk in way more depth about how to do that.
Yeah, she's definitely one of them that I thought of with that whole, you had to really show it before, and now people are a little bit more used to that idea.
Yes. Yeah.
And she took a long time to work on her.
Yeah, for sure.
And Jen, you're asking about tips on places to search for online remote jobs. It looks like Cherie has popped in a few things with our Flex Jobs, one of the sponsors for the conference, and there's definitely a few things online where you can find remote jobs.
I will say, so, and I talk about this in the in my workshop, the transferable skills workshop. I talk about where you go to look for jobs. I definitely list Flex Jobs. But here's the thing. This is what I tell people. Don't start with, where do I go find a job? You want to start with, what are the skills that I have and what do I want to do? Because when you get that clarity, then it can direct where you go in a more meaningful way, so that you don't find yourself in 1,000 places looking up 1,000 jobs and getting overwhelmed. Flex Jobs is good though, because they weed out scams. That's one of the benefits of a site like that, because there are a lot of scams out there, and Flex Jobs validates every job that comes through their platform.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot more trustworthy and feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Kevin mentioned his company is restricting them to remote work from home. They feel the RV lifestyle is a vacation.
Yeah.
And I do feel that. Yeah, Escapees had a big problem with me working from a house instead of an RV. I think I'm on vacation right now in a cabin. No, I'm just kidding, but that is a frustrating. That's one of those where you almost have to work on them, or
Yeah.
it really show them really that, like, tell them to attend the conference. That
yes,
all of us doing this from RVs. And
have you thought about that? I think that's a really good idea, Corinza, is to invite employers that are unclear or they're reluctant or they don't understand to the conference, because I think that we could bridge the gap between their fears and what's really happening. I mean, the reality is RVers are resilient, dependable. Listen, I can find Wi-Fi anywhere. Listen, if my Wi-Fi goes down in my house, I know how to go find it within, I don't know, 5 minutes. No regular person who's never been in an RV knows how to do that. So, right. I mean, we are assets. We are absolutely assets to employers, but we need to understand that first. We need to be able to communicate that to them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Great. So we're about at the end here, and I want to just go ahead and thank you for your time and talking about this topic. It's one that everybody really wants to know about. We want to know, there's been so many changes. What does this look like now? What does the future hold for me? So I think this is incredibly useful for everybody.
Good.
I'm going to pop in here. Can talk about the conference for a minute, because I do see we have a few questions came in about the conference. Someone asked where to get it, and it is, if you go to rethinkingremotework.com, you can learn about all of the speakers, all of the seminars that are happening, all of the workshops, and sign up for a ticket. So there are tickets. Somebody was asking about replays, I think, on here, and there are replays. So there are 3 tickets. There's a free ticket, and you get to watch the replays from the day for 24 hours for each seminar, and goes away after 24 hours. There's a mid-ticket that will allow you to watch the replays for a week, and then there's a VIP ticket that will allow you to keep all of those replays for a year. And there are so many seminars happening, and at the same time, that really you want to be able to actually digest everything you're watching. So it's definitely a good idea. You're not going to be able to watch them all at the same time, to watch them later. Go back and watch that. And when you get the VIP ticket, you get the special little things like workshops with Camille and some of the others that have been in the chat here. So there's a lot going on. It's kind of hard to keep track of everything, and there is like a little schedule that you can choose what you want to watch, and it helps you out there too, because there is so much happening at this conference.
Yeah.
I have seen Cherie in the comments here, and I see Bridget, and so she's leading up this thing. So if you have questions, pop them in there, and hopefully she can get to you. But if you go to rethinkingremotework.com, you can see all of that, and there's just so much going on. This is March 4th through 8th, so it's next Thursday. There's going to be a welcome, and then there's going to be Camille, and you can talk about the remote work journey.
Yes, and by the way, maybe I have a couple more minutes, right? I can show at least the drive model that I'm going to.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, why don't I show people that real quick, if you pull my slides back up. So I won't give too much away because I don't want to ruin the surprise, but so you can see my screen here?
I'll pop it, yes.
Okay, perfect. So for my first talk, I'll be going over the drive model. And the drive model is to put people in the driver's seat of their remote work future. So I can at least tell you a little bit how drive works, because this is how I'll be going over all of the content in that presentation. So the first thing we talk about is deciding to be empowered, respect your skills and values, identify immediate opportunities. So like when Danny was talking about our livelihoods depend on it, right? This is why we need to identify immediate opportunities. But ultimately, you want to value your zone of genius. And I'll talk more about zone of genius, but if we can do work that's in our zone of genius, we're going to be that much happier. And finally, it's to explore growth potential. And that's all about if you're going to branch out into freelancing, if you're going to start your own business, some things that you need to be thinking about and doing to make that path more successful. So that's what I'm going to be digging into in that main talk. And then, as you mentioned, I'll be doing I'll be going much deeper on the transferable skills in the workshop. So that's what I'll be covering.
I think that's great. I mean, it's a great first talk to like get the idea of the journey of what you're going to be going through on this. And then you can dive into all the different seminars and talks. There's something for everyone. Sorry, I was just checking the messages over here to see if there was anything else that I have missed that I noticed for that. But yeah, so much happening. So like you said, there was VA with Brianna Royal. So if you were thinking about becoming a virtual assistant, when we say VA, let me clarify that.
Yes. Yeah.
Virtual assistant, because virtual right there says it in the name. You can do that. There's the talk with the pre-Medicare health insurance. There's talks about starting a business. So if you want to start your own business and not necessarily work for someone else remotely, there's things about that too. Yeah. There's just a plethora of choices, and it should be something for everyone. You can come and join us, jump on that free ticket and get in there and just start watching.
Oh, Cherie says, can we get the song now? Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you, Cherie.
Oh my gosh. I was like, maybe they'll forget. So, okay. Are you done though? Because I don't want, we should.
Yes, I'm finished. So we're good.
Is Bill still young? Are you still there? Okay. This is for you. Now, here's some context. Once again, this is Cedar Key. This is a beautiful old, I don't know, like home over the water that, it's like a ghost home. And so anyway, Cedar Key is this beautiful place in Florida. So when my husband Bryce and I were going to meet Bill and Porter there, we were so excited. We bought all this meat for barbecue. And so I made up a catchy little tune. This is going to get stuck in your head. Let's see if I can pull this off. Ready? Here we go. I got steak, pork chop, chicken, ready for Cedar Key. Steak, pork chop, chicken, won't you come and eat with me? I got steak, pork chop, chicken, what's it gonna be? Steak, pork chop, chicken, join me in Cedar Key.
That is great. Thank you.
I can't believe I just did that.
I do believe that you sang a Christmas song, an elf song or something before.
Yes, the elf poem. Yeah, you're remembering Harvey the RV elf. That's right.
So this is not totally unprecedented by you. Maybe you guys can get her to sing it in her workshop again.
I don't even think Bill's still here, and I'm going to be really mad at him if he left before that song.
Oh, that's too good. Now that's what I'm going to have to. Oh, no, he's here.
Oh, he's here.
I'll miss it.
And we did eat all of those meats. I'm sorry for the vegetarians. I know you're a vegetarian, Karenza, but listen.
That's okay. That's why you showed up late, I guess. You're late. Oh, that's terrific. Well, guys, thank you so much, Camille, for singing to us, and for the rest of that talk that you did. But really, the highlight was the singing.
I think so. Most value added thing in the whole interview.
Right. Right. If you guys want to watch Camille more, you can join the conference next week at rethinkingremotework.com. Join and get your ticket now so you're ready. And if they want to find you, Camille does blog at More Than a Wheelin', and she is the founder of Remote Work School.
Yep. Yep.
And else? Yeah.
By the time the conference comes out, if with any luck, I'll have my new website, which is CamilleAttell.com. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, you sounded confident about that.
It's a long shot, yeah. But yeah, More Than a Wheelin' is a great place to find me if you want to connect.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you out in the world watching us. We hope to see you next week at the conference to learn more about remote work, and join us next month for another webinar. Thank you.
Bye.